They specified a fair and impartial jury, not just a jury that's going to be motivated by one influence of another. This case has become very political. It was involved in the politics of the last election year. To this day, you could go out now and read things from all across the political spectrum about this case, most of which is written by people who know nothing. I don't mean that they're know-nothings. I mean that they don't know what you're going to know, those of you who are selected for this jury, who are going to hear for yourselves the real evidence in this case. But there's something called the First Amendment, that's another part of our Constitution, where they guarantee the right of a free press. And it's the price we pay for having a free press is a lot of irresponsible and sloppy journalism. This is not an attack on the media. I've read things about this case that were perfectly stated what had happened in this court. And there are things that I think, was I in the courtroom when that happened? It can be frightening. So I'm not bashing anybody, but I'm going to talk about what you need to do, what you need to be thinking about if you're picked to hear this case, and how much reliance you can put on things that may be just sloppy, which is a vast amount of it. Some of it that is deliberately biased, that's out there, and sometimes from respectable media outlets. But that's the price we pay for having a free press, because we value that. But we also value having a fair trial. So the critical thing you must remember is whatever you've read or heard about the case before, whatever you've been thinking about the case, you have to be in line with what these people who risked their lives for our freedom asked of us, demanded of us. Fair and impartial, based upon the evidence.
All right, Jack, I really appreciate, again, it's not just the judge continuing to say those buzzwords you mentioned, fair and impartial, but the attorneys have also continued to say that in their questioning. Really sorry if you feel like this is intrusive, but we must decipher whether or not you feel you can be fair and impartial. How did you feel about the judge basically saying, yeah, you've probably seen something in media, it may be accurate, it may be not, put it aside, listen to the evidence?
Well, I appreciate the judge's decision when it comes to the issue of evidence being presented. Remember, what the jury has to decide upon is not what people are talking about in the street, not what's being written down in newspapers or what's being commented on television by you and me. It's about what's being presented to them. So it's important that they understand that their decisions are based upon exclusively what is presented in a courtroom. And I think that's a very important issue for the prosecutor, for the defense in this case. Obviously, both sides are looking for fair and impartial jurors, but let's be honest. At the same time, what they're also looking for are people who are predisposed to prosecute and convict, and in this case, defend and acquit. And so those two are running sometimes in parallel, sometimes in contrast.
Right, great point. And let me ask, in your experience, Jack, because I know you've tried many criminal cases. In this case, again, the judge said, you have 2 days. We're going to do jury selection in 2 days for a very publicized case. In another very publicized case in Brunswick, Georgia, I believe it's day 10 that we're on for jury selection. Do judges tend to, in your experience, give you an absolute, this is as long attorneys as you get, or not?
Well, I've had it happen to me before. Well, I will get absolutes, and I will push back if I have to. Yes, have I had arguments with judges? Yes. Have I ever been held in contempt? No, yet. But at the same time, my job is to defend my client. And by the way, if I'm the prosecution, I'm defending the people, right? And so with that in mind, my job is to find a fair and impartial jury. If I can't find that jury in 2 days, my response, Your Honor, with all due respect, I can't find a jury this quickly. You know, another aspect, though, Ashley, is that I am a little surprised that there wasn't a questionnaire. Because generally what you'll get is if you send out this questionnaire early, people will come in with that answered. I have had multiple situations where we were striking people for cause. In other words, people who couldn't be fair, couldn't be impartial, specifically based upon how they answered some of those questions. It saved hours and hours and hours. They don't even have that in this case.
And I think that those would be some of those obvious answers. For instance, at least in the Arbery case, we've heard that people are very well knew the victim. And so clearly that's someone who's going to be struck for cause. So to your point, Jack, I think the benefit of a questionnaire is it often says these are the things that we know are going to be caused. They may be above the certain age, don't have to serve, things like that, that really get knocked out from the top, because 2 days seems like just a little bit of time. The other thing I want to bend your ear about, Jack, is the judge's ruling about how the two individuals who are now deceased and the one injured are going to be referred to throughout the course of this trial. So a reminder to everyone, Joseph Rosenbaum was the very first individual who was shot and killed. And again, we know that Kyle Rittenhouse did it. His defense is self-defense. Anthony Huber is an individual who was also killed, and Gage Grosskreutz is the one who was injured. So here are the faces. And Jack, we know that this judge has said it's not just this trial, it's all trials, that I don't believe at the beginning of this trial that they should be called victims or the alleged victims, because that creates prejudice according to the attorney, to the judge in this case. And what he has said instead is it can be the complaining witness, the deceased. There are other things that you can call them. Have you ever encountered that? And do you think that there's any potential issue with that as they get started with this trial?
I fight this issue every single day, Ashley. I do, because there's two parts to a trial that people may not see. They see when this thing gets started, but there are all the pre-trial decisions that are essentially teeing up what gets to come in before the jury, sort of what the spigot allows. And so in this particular case, the logic is to say, we don't know if these three men were victims until a jury decides that they are. From a defense perspective, that's the situation that I would want to see. But when I had a judge who could say that the people in the streets were looters, rioters, and arsonists as a defense attorney, I am jumping up and down with glee right now, because the real argument that I would be making, and I would be making during jury selection, openings, and closings, if I can get it in, is that if you're out in the streets and you're a looter, an arsonist, and a rioter, don't you kind of deserve what you get? Isn't that the argument that you're going to see from the defense? It may not be blatant, but it's going to have that undercurrent throughout that says, if this is what you're out doing, you shouldn't be shocked about what happens to you. You should expect to see that rolled through this trial. We talk about theories and themes. Guess what? That's going to be one of those themes that's rolling underneath this very case.
I agree with you, Jack. And we know a theme theory is so important to the case as you try to convince the jury that your facts are the ones that they need to believe the conclusions. And I will say this, there's been a whole lot of talk on social media about that very fact, and a feeling by some that the judge has already set the stage to say that this should not be an individual that is convicted of murder. So, we just have to follow it every day. And that's the benefit of Court TV, being able to show these trials live, as viewers then get to see the evidence that the jury is going to listen to. Jack, I know that you are going to stay with us. A reminder that the Rittenhouse trial is on a break. Two things we're covering today that will bring you live. One is that. The other thing we'll provide to you is a recap of what happened in the Supreme Court as they considered the Texas case that put a significant ban on abortions. That more and next here on Court TV.